Hi everyone, it's Alex from Risk Academy, and this is the second video in a short series of Risk Management 1 versus Risk Management 2 videos, and I want to talk about risk appetite, or specifically risk appetite statements, because risk appetite in its kind of original form existed forever and there's nothing fundamentally new about it, but somebody really clever decided that we should capture the risk appetite that was always there into a new document and call it risk appetite statement, because that will totally change how executives and board members make decisions. So, risk appetite statements, as you can kind of guess from my first remark, is completely and utterly risk management 1, because in risk management 2, for the actual decision makers, they've always had something much better. So risk appetite statements, risk management 1, that basically means do it yourself if you have to. If you don't have to, do it. And by the way, in most industries there's no law that requires you to have one. So, have the balls to have the conversation with the board members and say, risk appetite statements are dumb, they're absolutely useless, why do you keep asking us for that? Or have the guts to tell your auditor to get lost, because risk appetite statements are completely irrelevant to the actual decision makers. Have that conversation. However, if they insist, and I don't expect you to fight battles, I never had to have a risk appetite statement, even though the regulator recommended we have one, because I just went to the regulator and said, this is like the dumbest thing you can possibly imagine. So anyway, don't change the world, don't do fights, don't put your career on the line. If they insist after you had that conversation, because they may be just confused, but if they insist on having a risk appetite statement, just do it. But don't waste board members or management's time on creating one, because you already have all the information necessary. To create a risk appetite statement, all you have to do is open the strategy, find out the strategic objectives, and make sure your risk appetite statement is linked to the strategic objectives. Then find first of all, and then open all board level policies. Investment guidelines, investment policy, finance policy, budgeting policy, whatever board level documentation your organization has, health and safety policy, anti-money laundering policy, open those documents and pull out all the limits, all the tolerances, all the appetites that are already documented there, and just map it out across all the strategic objectives in this single risk appetite statement. Hopefully it will fit on one page, maybe it will be double-sided, I don't know, it doesn't matter. The document is completely artificial, it's risk management 1, has nothing to do with how people actually make decisions, so make sure you do it quickly and make it look beautiful, because this is what risk management 1 is all about. Risk management 1 is all about marketing, it's all about selling risk management to someone else. So if a credit rating agency comes in to review the company's credit rating, you can show them this wonderful, lemonade if you can. This will just blow them away. People are stupid, some of them. You have that document, don't waste too much time on preparing it, because you already have all the answers inside board level policies and inside the strategy document that your organization has. Assuming your organization has either of those things. Most do. That's risk management 1. Risk management 2, I hope you can kind of beginning to get it, is that risk appetite is nothing different than a tool or a technique how the regulator or the board controls, limits and directs the management in their decision making. So the actual kind of practical application of risk appetite, which is this ambiguous statement, is either a limit or a tolerance that is documented somewhere inside one of the policies. So for example, for health and safety you would have 0 harm or no fatality. That's companies, the boards and the regulators' appetite for that type of risk. For investment decision making, for example, you may say no more than 20% invested in Europe, or no more than 20% should be held in a single bank, or some countries are below investment grade and we will never invest there, or we will not hold our money in the banks that don't have a credit rating above a certain level. There are myriad of things like that, limits, directions, little suggestions, nudges that already exist in policies and procedures. So risk management too, if you really want to make risk appetite work in your company, review existing policies at the board level, pull out and find out all the limits, all the tolerances, anything that may be kind of related to appetite from those policies, and then make a judgment whether the existing policies actually capture sufficient detail for the decision makers to make decisions. In fact, risk appetite, even though it was originally designed for the board to control management, risk appetite is actually a very, very powerful tool. You can, in risk management too, you can develop a methodology, calculate certain limits or certain tolerances. For example, the best ever risk appetite case I saw was in one of the sovereign funds, where they said we will invest at moderate level of risk, and the moderate level of risk would be volatility of the portfolio somewhere within, I can't remember, but it was, I think, like 15%. And once they set that benchmark, it then becomes a very powerful tool, because you can then calculate the actual volatility, compare that to the risk appetite, and come to the management and say, well, actually, you haven't been taking enough risk. The board has given you the mandate to take on more risk. So change the strategy, change your investment approach, invest in other higher risk activities, because you've been given that mandate by the board, and you can go and generate that higher return. So risk appetite is a wonderful thing. If you don't think risk appetite statements have anything to do with risk appetite, but in fact you work with existing board level policies, guidelines, and whatever other documents you have in your company, and if you need to make changes to risk appetite, you make it inside the policies. You don't really use this separate risk appetite statement. I mean, that's the ultimate idea and the difference between risk management 1 and risk management 2. Risk management 1 is create something new and call it risk something something. Risk management 2 is change the way current documents, processes, culture works, to integrate risk management inside, to change the way decisions are being made. So sorry for this a little bit longer video. I hope you enjoyed it. Write comments underneath this video. I'll see you in the next one.